Welcome, my friends, to the Be a Paid Speaker Now podcast. I'm Deborah Deras, your host. Each week, you'll hear from top experts in the speaking industry who will share their insider secrets. Learn what works and what doesn't by hearing real stories of success and failure. My intention is to be your speaking coach to help you reach your goals faster and easier. I believe you are the messenger for the message. So thanks for tuning in, and let's get started. Hello, this is Deborah Deras, your host of the Be a Paid Speaker Now podcast. Once again, we have a very, very special guest, an expert motivational speaker, actually international speaker, and a good friend of mine. His name is David Matthew Brown. He is an author and designer of Roar. And Roar is geared toward youth and adults connecting breath, heart, and listening as one, which allows them to roar like a lion and lioness. And I know from the time that I've met David years ago in my spiritual counseling training at the Agape International Spiritual Center, that he is one that speaks the truth and does it from the heart. Welcome, David.
Welcome. Thank you for having me, Deborah.
I was telling you that when I interviewed you before on my YouTube, you were the number one guest. Wow. That was on your book after your divorce,
Yes.
the yoga
Um,
book.
yeah, 90 Days of Heat.
So how do you go from 90 days of heat to roaring like a lion, friend?
That's a good question. It it all started when I did bereavement support. And
Oh,
so when I was in bereavement support, I had to find a way to help people connect to their emotions. And I couldn't find a way. I tried at least 60 different methods on how to help people be here,
wow.
and none of them worked. And so I was dealing with a patient at the time, or a client, and his brother was dying. And you could just see when we sat together that he had all this emotion. And so I just said, let's put our attention on our hearts. And why don't we just breathe into our heart?
Let's do it. Let's do it now. Okay.
Yeah. So that's what we did. So I had him focus on his heart. And then I had him breathe. Picture the breath going into your heart and out of your heart. And as you continue to breathe into your heart and out of your heart, as you continue to picture that breath going into your heart and out of your heart, what you begin to notice is that your mind quiets down. And as it quiets down, it allows you to spend more time here. And as you spend more time here, breathing into your heart and out of your heart, the next step is listening to the breath. Now, what's fascinating about us humans is that when you listen to your breath coming into your heart and out of your heart, it sounds like the ocean tide.
Oh, really? Let me
So
get
it literally sounds like a
Oh, you're right. Like a seashell.
right. And so why is that important? Because most people throughout their week will say to a friend or family member, or even to themselves, gosh, I really have to go to the beach. What they're really saying is they're stressed out,
Mm.
and they don't realize that their own breath is the ocean.
Oh, wow.
And so when we, for example, when we breathe, we're taught that our breath comes up, takes a break, lets go. But when we're really in the breath, what you'll discover is that the breath is continuous.
Mm-hmm.
So it breathes in, it lets go, and as it's letting go, it's actually collecting air back in. So your subtle breath body, if you will, is a continuous breath. And thinking stops your breath. So when you're thinking too much, your breath stops.
Oh my God, you're so right.
So when your breath stops, that's what we mean when we say that people are getting in the way.
Mm,
They're trying to will things. They're trying to force things. The breath is a continuous flow with however it is that you look at the big expanse in your life, whether you look at it as a universe or big love. You don't even have to put a identifier on it because it's all breath, and breath is life, and breath is who we are. And we lose ourselves in the breath because the breath is the only thing that debunks the mind. You can spend decades
right,
questioning your mind,
right.
right?
And it's the like the favorite phrase that Einstein says, you can't solve a problem from the consciousness that created it. Uh, and I can so relate to this type of breath work because I had like 15 car accidents, and I was going to therapy to talk about it, and I was going to hypnotherapy to get it out, and none of that worked. I still, for years, wasn't able to drive.
Right.
And I met this person that was a PTSD yoga therapist. And I was like, well, what is this yoga therapy going to be? And I'm like, I do yoga, hot yoga all the time. And it was learning to breathe. It was because I was constantly in a state of holding my breath, like thinking I was going to get
Mm,
hit.
yeah.
And when she opened me up just with the session of breathing, that the flow opened up so many opportunities in love and money. Like I couldn't believe how much holding my breath was blocking the flow of life. But that's not what this is about. But I wanted them to get the experience. That's not what our show is about, but I want you to know who David is because he's going to talk to you about his speaking career and how he got started. But he is such a man on a mission. He's such a man of depth and just incredible talent that I just want you to, if you haven't had a chance to interact with him and see him speaking live or hear him, to experience him. So I thought we'd start out with that experience. So thank you, David. I already
Yeah.
feel calmer on this podcast just from breathing. We don't realize that we hold our breath. So can you tell the audience how you got started as a paid speaker with this wonderful work that you do in the world?
Yeah, it actually started on a fluke. I had just graduated from Agape as a practitioner, and a woman's contacted me on Facebook, and gosh darn it, I can't remember her name, but she contacted me and she recommended me to speak at Unity Burbank. And I said, well, I've never spoken at a, like, what do you do? And so, long story short, I went to Burbank. I did my talk. The lady there said, hey, look at, we want to hire 4 speakers and we want them on rotation. So we'll contact you. We really love what you were about. And that's how I first got paid. And then a couple weeks later, they contacted me and I would be the first speaker of each month for the next 6 years. And from,
Whoa, what a gig! 6 year
yeah,
gig?
yeah. So from there, I spoke at every Sunday. I spoke at Unity Burbank, Unity Westside, Unity. There was a Unity in Santa Monica, and then I spoke at a CSL Center. Um, so that was all unfolding. So those are my weekend. That was kind of like my Sunday gig, and then from there, people started liking what I was talking about, and that led me to I ended up speaking at Nike. I've spoken for Warner Brothers. I've
Nice.
spoken to athletes. I've worked with professional athletes and celebrities. I've had the opportunity to work one-on-one with groups as far as helping athletes and celebrities, elite athletes, be able to understand the power of their breathing in stressful, chaotic sports like situations, and same with celebrities. So uh, that's how it started. Now, what's fascinating about what we're talking about here is speaking. There are different styles of speaking. I grew up Italian and Irish, so I love speaking. It's in my family. We fight a lot. um, but what I want to say to you is that that first day, the first talk that I gave at Unity Burbank would change my life. I showed up to Unity Burbank, and it was the first time I was going to be on rotation. I had worked on all these notes and stories because it was a Mother's Day talk on
Ah,
mother, on mothers, and what a mother means, and I had
right.
dialogue with Mother Mary, and I had a book on her, and all kinds of things. So I show up to Unity Burbank, and I didn't bring my notes. And so I turned my car off. My daughter was 4 at the time. No, she was 2 at the time, 2 or 3 around there. And I was panicking, and I was like, "Oh my God, what am I going to talk about? I lost my notes." And she said, "Turn on the radio. Turn on the radio." I said, "I don't want to turn on the radio. I got to figure this out." So I finally turned on the radio, and it was "Let It Be" by the Beatles. And
Mm.
so my first talk was to let everybody know what happened. I was honest with everybody. I said, "Look, I had a talk plan. I lost it, but the Beatles song came on, Let It Be, so I'm going to flow." So from that point on, from that point, 9 years ago, 9.5 years ago, I have never used notes for any of my talks.
Mhm.
I don't gather notes. If stories come to mind, great. I gave Nike my talk title, and I just went out there and I gave it for 45 minutes, and I told stories, I reflected on things, but I didn't have notes. So I am a speaker that doesn't work with notes. I don't look at papers. I don't have a projector behind me. I don't have all this glitzy stuff. I don't put mantras and vision boards and all that stuff, which is great for other people. But what works for me is
Mhm.
speaking from my heart, and that's where I get paid.
So I think it's really important for people that are listening to recognize that we will find, or you will find your own style, and not
Exactly.
try to be like the sage on the stage that you see, that you think you should be like that. I have a similar experience with you where when I first started speaking, I would literally write and rewrite pages, like 10 pages of notes. And I would spend so much time, and then I would get to the hotel because I was usually speaking out of state, and I would rewrite the notes. And then I would get up to the podium, but I never stand behind the podium. So I would never look at those notes. They would just sit there. And then half the time I didn't say hardly, I mean, I would say like 20% of what was on the page. But what
Right.
I allowed, and this is what I pray for before I speak, is that I'm the messenger for the message and that it's through me exactly what they need to hear. And it takes a certain amount of faith and courage and surrender to do that. But I find the difference between speaking and truly connecting is, like you said, speaking from the heart. So, can you give anybody techniques, or maybe the breathing was the technique to kind of calm the nerves before you get on stage to be able to do what you do?
Well, you know what, the Buddhists, if you ever do Buddhist meditation,
Mm-hmm.
one of the things that you do is you acknowledge what's happening. And
Mm.
I feel like sometimes we don't acknowledge what's happening.
Right.
So we do what you were just talking about, should. We spend a lot of time shoulding on each other, right? I
Mm.
should do this. This is how it should look, and blah, blah, blah. If you're nervous before a talk. So acknowledge, I'm nervous right now.
Mm-hmm.
There's nerves.
And
There's,
that's normal if you're not
right.
nervous, you know.
Yeah, there's anxiousness. There's whatever's going on. And then just become aware of your breath,
Mm.
and then become aware of your body. Like, just become aware of your feet. Are your toes curled up? Are they not curled up? Are your feet relaxed? Then go up to your calves. How are your calves? Just be aware of it. You're not trying to change anything. Awareness is powerful because it doesn't change anything. It's unconditional love. So it accepts everything. And once something's accepted, for example, if this would sound ridiculous to people watching, but it's the truth. If you're nervous and your toes are clenched
Right.
like that, right?
I
Then you
usually use
become
my
a
shoulders like this.
or, okay, or your shoulders, yeah, your shoulders up like this. Then you become aware of them.
Mm-hmm.
Guess what? They just drop back into place. That's what awareness does. That's the power of awareness. So
Oh.
I would bring awareness to every part of your body, and that only takes about a couple minutes. But yeah, Deborah's right. Look, everybody gets nervous, especially as the speaking gigs get bigger. Sometimes the mind gets in the way and goes, "Oh my
And the
God!"
more money you get paid, you're like,
Right?
oh my God,
Yeah,
I better deliver, friend. This is a
yeah,
lot
because there's
of
yeah,
money.
right, because there's a part of you that, look, you'll deal with the part that feels fraudulent.
That imposter syndrome.
Right. yeah, and you're just like, what am I doing? I just did an event at a hospital, and they hired me to do 3 events, and so I worked with doctors and nurses. I did roar. It was great.
Ooh.
But the first time I was there, I'm working with the leadership staff and I'm working with their head doctor and head nurses. And there's a part of me that was like, how did I get here and what am I doing here? And then I said, you know what? All I can do is what Deborah just said. I can just be myself. And that's why I was there, because of just being who I am. Right. And so that really helps out.
So, one of the things I heard you saying, which is like a teaching moment, when you were telling your story when you were doing the Unity gigs, is I have a course called Be a Paid Speaker Now Academy. And I say in that course, make your audience members your sales team. And you just organically make your audience members your sales team by connecting with them, by giving
Right.
a fantastic talk, by being yourself. But are there any strategies that you have, like giving cards or giving like something for people to take that they remember you? So when they have that Nike gig, they know to call you.
Mm. Yeah, one of the things that I have been doing over the past year that has actually become effective, and I didn't think it was an effective strategy. I was doing it not strategically. I was doing it because I was like, wow, I really feel like I want to give people that have come to see me something, that would be of use to them.
Right.
So what I do is I actually send um, an ebook of the Book of Light, my first book, which is a mindful meditation book.
Mm-hmm.
And then I send that to everybody that attends my workshop for free. I send it in an email. And
Mm-hmm.
then in that email, it's got all my information on it. And what's
Yeah.
great is that people then have opened the email up and been very grateful and appreciative. They've they've learned to do some meditation and mindfulness by reading that book. And they've contacted me and referred me to other places and to other people. And
Awesome.
that, yeah. But my intention really was uh, just heart centered, that I just felt like, you know what? Thank you so much for bringing me here. Because I'll be honest, after I speak, I don't know if I'm coming back.
Right.
So, I'm going to give you the best that I am at that
Exactly.
moment.
Leave it on
Yeah.
the table. Drop the mic when you're done. You'll be like, I'm gonna I do that even if there's like one person in the room. I will give them my heart, my soul, my blood, like everything.
So I
I'm
think
sweating.
yeah, so that's important, right? Because if this is a show about speaking and all that wonderful stuff, I feel like what we're both talking about that is very useful for anybody wanting to get into it is passion. Are you passionate about this?
Yes.
Because
Come on.
your passion really opens a lot of doors. In not a There's a difference between passion and arrogance. Like I'm amazing. But that's part that there's a when you love and have that passion for who you are, all of a sudden your intuition and all this stuff inside of you gets excited and goes, why don't we try this? Let's go here. Let's call this person. Oh, you know what? I could always go to this bookstore and deliver a talk here because it's my friend's bookstore and I can gather a group of people to watch me, you know?
But so when you do the ebook, do you give them a website and they sign up? Or are you literally collecting email addresses?
They don't, no, they don't sign up for anything. I'm not at that place. What I do is I just send it out, and then what I end up getting is a lot of clients.
No,
Like a
but how
lot.
do you get their emails to send it out?
Oh, I send it to the person that's in charge of the speaking gig,
Oh, okay.
and they're kind enough to just send it out. And then if people write back to me, awesome. They From there they have an email with my phone number, email
Got it.
address,
Got it. Got it.
website, Amazon account. My Amazon books. So yeah.
Wonderful. And it's so funny that you said that because my partner that's been coming with me to the spiritual center that we both speak at was saying to me, you should give them your ebook because I have so many ebooks and I haven't been giving them anything. But like for me, because I'm a spiritual counselor, but I'm also a social media goddess. Did you know that, friend?
Yeah.
I've been ordained as a goddess. And in marketing, they always say the money is in the list. And I know you're talking about heart centered and intuition. And most of my speakers that I interview are all transformational. And then on the business end of it, it's also building your email list. So the more you have people on your email list, when I first started speaking, I would have a calendar of all the places I was speaking. And David, honestly, sometimes it was in my living room. I'm like, I would move my husband into the bedroom, and that's where my speaking. I had a meetup group because there
Yeah.
was no Facebook when I started speaking. There was like MySpace. And so I would have this email newsletter list, and then people would be like, wow, you're everywhere, not knowing it was my living room or a teleconference or something that I organized, but I looked so
Wow.
busy. And then I was getting booked from that. So you're giving people that example of, you give out of the goodness of your heart, out of generosity, not to get. But when you plant those seeds, if you're a great speaker, you will get, you'll get book gigs. But one of the things that I think is just natural for you, and I don't know, it's from being an actor or whatever, but you're just like a masterful storyteller. And you just, I mean, my mom's boyfriend loves you, friend. And he's like, I stay awake for David. David is amazing. He's like, David just throws it down. But is there any techniques you can help with people to deliver a impactful speech that gets people opening their heart and wanting to refer you like crazy?
Mm. I feel like what you were just talking about is really important as far as, when you write books or when you write stories or articles or anything, you have a beginning, middle, and end. So as a
Yeah.
speaker, if you have a good story, set that story up, have the middle of it and the end. And people nowadays kind of like things a little bit shorter than they used to. But if you've got their attention, people will take a ride with you. Like one of the biggest stories that gets a lot of people attention, and I share it on occasion, it's not something I do all the time, is my near death experience.
Mm,
And when I tell that story, it is completely silent. And
mm.
it's funny because people are anticipating, like, it feels like, did you live? Right? Like, because it's so quiet. And I'm the one telling the story about me dying. Right?
Wow.
So
You're
it's like,
nervous.
and then when I'm done with the story, people are like, oh, good, he made it. Oh, wait a second. Yeah, like he's right there. So have a beginning, middle, and end to your stories, and understand why you're sharing that story. What is the intention
Mm,
of you sharing that story in that moment? A lot of people share a lot of stories, and the stories don't really resonate with what they're talking about.
mhm.
They just share stories because those are the stories they're used to sharing,
Right.
and that's what kind of gets them a lot of attention. But if you're going to share a story on, like, for example, I would not share my near death experience at Nike,
Mhm.
right? Nike people would be like, what the hell is he talking about?
Got it.
But I would share my near death experience at a Buddhist meditation or a meditation retreat, or so your stories resonate with different groups. So know the group you're talking about and
Exactly.
talking to and with, because then that's when you can really kind of go, oh, I could share this story, because people want to connect with you as a speaker. It's important. I mean, look, if you look at, like, anybody, no matter if you like them or not, they share things about themselves, and you're like, wow, like, they went they went through it. They're for real, for real.
And that's what they really remember, the stories from your speech. I usually do like a pre-event questionnaire to know the audience. And I remember it was a Cinco de Mayo event in Colorado. And they're like, your audience is going to be all youth. They're going to be people that got scholarships and they just graduated. And then I get there and everybody is like 65 and older.
No way.
It was because it was like the donors of the scholarship, like the people that were the recipients didn't come, but the donors all did. And so, like, in that moment, I had to change my speech. I mean, I did a little bit for the youth, but I had to do more for the people that were there. Otherwise, they'd be like, okay, I know this already.
Yeah.
So it's like you have to also be very, very flexible as a speaker because I don't know about you, but whatever can go wrong has gone wrong with every single thing. That's why I don't like using a PowerPoint either. I'm like, I am the PowerPoint, friend. Procter and Gamble was like, we thought you were the PowerPoint. Yeah, we didn't think you were. But I have a burning question that I know everyone wants to ask. They're telepathically asking me this to ask you. So, how do you know, or how did you know in the beginning, and how do you know now, how much to charge? How much do you charge for your fees, and how do you know that that's the right amount?
Hmm. Well, when I first started to figure out what to charge, I did ask like 4 or 5 speakers that I knew what their range was. When like what did they ask? Like what are they looking for? Like what are they asking for essentially? And so that's how I started. I just started from there. And then I started asking for that rate and I started getting it. And then I was like, this is crazy. And then then
It is
you go
crazy,
higher. As you get more experience, you get more determined and you're like, I could do this. Like there's
right?
gonna be 2,000 people. Here's what I'm gonna ask. And they give it to you, and you're like, okay, now yeah.
Yeah, and it's uncomfortable, I know for me, to ask for those bigger numbers. And I just have to remind myself that as speakers, we're not paid by the hour, we're paid as experts. And we're also paid as experience by our experience. I have the 7 E's that make you worth what you're charging as a speaker. And
Okay.
it's not just education, it's not just experience, it's not just expertise. It's the engagement, it's the entertainment value. There's so many things that we do as speakers.
Yeah.
And oftentimes, I think new speakers will sell themselves short, not realizing the prep time, the travel time, the opportunity cost. Because I used to do a lot of work for the military and I would drive deep into the Mojave Desert. And
Wow.
it was like 3 days of my time for that 1 hour of the speech because of the driving. So I had to realize to take that into consideration when you're doing your fees. But do you have like a sliding scale, or do you have fees for churches and fees for corporate, or how does that work?
I do. I have different fees for different places. Yeah. So I don't know. Yeah, churches are different. Big companies are different. If I work with elite athletes, that's different. Like if I'm talking to a group of them, uh, yeah, it all has different things with it.
And how do you and do you just keep that sheet to yourself? It's not like something that you have published on your website so that you're able to negotiate appropriately.
Right. Yeah. It's I don't have it on my
Yeah,
website.
most speakers will not have their fees anywhere on their website.
Right.
Or, and have you worked with any speakers bureaus?
I have not.
Yeah, I have worked with a couple, but not currently. I'm not. So I just wanted to know if you had somebody that helped you. So you're doing basically everything yourself, or just it's all coming to you, and you're doing the.
What's fascinating now is that I am getting a whole bunch of referrals from all over the globe right now about my work because it's like anything else. You do it for a long period of time, and then people kind of gain that trust for you and what you bring, and they start recommending you out to other places. So I've been blessed where, especially this year,
Yay!
I'm working with a major hospital and their leadership and all kinds of people because of someone that knows my work, right? And this popped in my head when you were bringing up what you were talking about probably a couple minutes ago, and I want to share this with those watching. When we talk about a professional simply means someone that professes. And what are you professing? Your expertise. You're
Mm-hmm.
professing what you know. So if you can break it down to that simplicity, it's a lot easier to start asking for whatever your price is because you're the expert, as Deborah brought up earlier, on a certain thing, whatever that thing is,
Right.
right? So look at being a professional, not some big daunting thing like I'm a professional speaker or I'm an international speaker or I'm any of this. All you're doing is sharing. Speaking is sharing. That's all it really is. It's
Oh, I
nothing
love
more.
it. Say it again. That's so tweetable. David Matthew Brown said, speaking is just sharing, and sharing is caring.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
Right?
Yeah.
Because we
Speaking is
care
sharing.
we care about our audience. That's what you and I have in common. We truly want them to have a transformation from the inside out, right? I mean, I don't go there to hoping to motivate and then they leave and then they're depressed. No, I want to inspire something that's already within them so that flame is lit and that they're able to have a different way of thinking, being, living, and operating in their life, having been in my presence, right?
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And look, I'm not a motivational speaker because that always reminds me of motivating someone to do something that they don't want to do to get
Right.
them to do it. And there's nothing wrong with that. There are a lot of people that are very good at that. There are people that charge astronomical amounts of money for that type of speaking. You know, my intention for what I do is the same. I want people to roar. We're all lions. We're all lions and lionesses. We have dominion over our lives.
Yes.
Whatever's going on in your life, whether it's horrific, traumatic, awesome, happy, those are all judgments. It can always be better. How much better can it get from this, right? This is amazing. What is the possibilities here? So we put judgments on success and then we stop it. We go, well, I'm successful. Well, you just put a judgment on it.
Mm.
If we can release those judgments and stand as the person that we innately are in our kind of expressing and moving and expounding, and we're boundless, then this whole life is an engagement of aliveness, that we are alive and we are connected to each other and we're sharing what we know, because that's what teachers do. Teachers share. When you go to school, a teacher is sharing with you geometry, and they're saying this is the way to go about geometry, and then you sit there and you either love it or
Right.
you don't. But that's what's so great about speaking with, even like, I coach girls soccer, so I've coached hundreds of girls in elite soccer. So what's empowering about it is that it's a lot easier to inspire them because their life lesson is immediately happening on the field in real time,
Mhm.
right? So they're getting it. So if they're scared of the moment, you can recognize that and give them some feedback that may help them become the queens that they are on the
Ooh,
field, so
yes.
they soar, so that they attack. And I'm going to share one brief story with you.
Wait, wait. I wanna ask you a question. We only have 10 minutes. Can you
Okay.
hold the
Yeah,
story?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, because I wanna make sure to get it. So when you told me that you get speaking engagements from emails because 'cause you're emailing people. You get speaking engagements from referrals. Is there any social media marketing that you do? Because you said somebody contacted you on Facebook. Any like formal marketing things that you do to get speaking engagements?
Uh, all I do on social media, I do advertise when I have speaking gigs. Like, I do put that on there. But again, everything that I do comes from a place of being a lion. So what is that? So on social media, if you follow me on Boxing Tales is because I also box. And so I share my spiritual journey in boxing and how they're equal with each other and they parallel on social media. So I stand up to injustice and inequality. I speak loudly on Twitter
Mm-hmm.
and sometimes on Instagram. But those are the places where, as a lion, my job and our job collectively is to stand up for humanity and to not let things get crazy and not question them. So everything that I post on social media is about roaring.
So you're letting your voice be heard and you're being your message. You're just
I'm
acting
walking,
your
yeah,
voice.
I'm walking what I'm talking about, right?
Ooh, I love it.
So,
You're the embodiment of what you speak on. Yes?
yes. And so people see that and then they go, "Oh, well, what do you mean he's speaking somewhere?" And then they'll come watch me, or they'll DM me, or send me an email thing and just say, hey, look at, I have a company that blah, 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 blah. Could you, what's your fee? What do you want to talk about? We have this event. So I'm not really one to, and I don't know why this is, I'm not really one to, or have been one that's like, hey, everybody, I'm a speaker. But I am someone that I feel that if you're walking the walk and sharing it,
Yeah.
people get excited by that.
Oh, for sure. Almost
And they,
every time you post something about speaking, that's what pops up. And I have thousands of friends, but it lights up my Instagram. I'm like, oh, look at there's David. He's speaking here, he's speaking there. So when someone asks you what your fee is, are there certain questions that you ask them before you give them the fee to make sure that you're giving them the right price?
the first one is how big is the audience?
Oh, okay.
The second one is maybe what the topic is.
Mm-hmm.
And then how long my talk is,
Got it.
right? Those are probably the three that would come up in a conversation. And then I don't tell them the fee right away. I let them know that I'm going to sit with it, and then I'll get back to them. I'll normally get back to them the next day.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's good.
Yeah,
And
so
when
I
you
don't,
sit with
I
it, are you
don't,
like meditating on the number or you're just researching to see what, other speakers they've hired or
no, we tend to live in a reactionary society and a quick fix. So people, what I've learned in my own life is that sometimes early on, people would ask me and I go, oh, this is my fee. And then now that I don't give it away right away, I can sit with it and kind of ponder and think about some stuff because it goes back to what you're talking about. If I answer someone immediately, like, oh, this is my fee, and then I forget that I have to drive, or I forget that I have to get a hotel, or I forget that I have to, like, that all needs to be included,
amen, brother.
right? That all needs to be included in, and I also, if I stay at a hotel with meals and all kinds of stuff, I want my day rate the day that I speak, and then the other stuff they have 10 days to get to me.
Right.
So a lot of people are different. Some people would much rather want it, after they, a week after they speak. I always want my day rate the day that I speak or the next day in a check. And then when it comes to the hotel, driving, airfare, all that stuff, I give more time because I have to send those receipts in,
Oh,
right? So I don't want to, if they're taking an invoice like this hospital that I was working at, I have to send those receipts in. Um, I also do that because if I'm on my own without, I have to figure all that stuff out. So
yeah. I just know anywhere I go, it's $1,500 and I add that to the fee and I have them pay that 80% up front and then 20% the day of the
yeah, so
speaking.
we're pretty much the same.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just to make it easy. So it sounds to me, and this is something that I love about you, is that you live your life very intuitively. Because, and this is something that's like natural for you, but like the majority of the world is like thinking and analyzing and like constructing and manipulating, and you're just like, a Zen Buddhist master, just like
Um,
just like tuning in and listening and hearing. And it's from the work that you teach about the flow of the breath. Is there any advice that you can give people that are new speakers to allow themselves to roar and to be a practitioner of flow like you are?
I would say, breathe.
Mm.
Just breathe. Give yourself a break. We forget to give ourselves breaks.
It's
Everybody
true.
want, yeah, everybody wants it right now. It's the reason why I feel like relationships fail so quick. Everybody gives it up too early, or they try to, like, take your time and marinate in this experience. Like, how cool is it that you want to speak? Like, give yourself credit. Like, that's awesome. And you know
Right.
what?
And that's
Once,
courageous, like a lion. That's a courageous lion. Like the
yeah,
lion has the heart in the Wizard of Oz, the heart and the courage,
yeah.
because it's
Yeah, do you
scary.
know? Yeah. Do you know the two reasons why a lion roars?
Why?
The first one is to let the other lions know this is its territory.
Oh,
And the second reason is going to blow your mind.
tell me.
The second reason is to let its family know it's got this.
Oh, I got it, friend. Love it. Love it. And that's what all those listening should know. And I love what you said about being the expert, because it's nothing big. It's sharing your experience. But when you can tell yourself the mantra, you got this. Like before I go on stage, when that imposter voice, my ego that's not my amigo, comes up, the little whisper, it's like, who are you to talk to these people? And when I first started speaking, I was so young, right? So I was like, you're so young. And then now I was like, who are you? You know, you're this, you're that. You know, there's always like a little thought. And then I always go back to the Marianne Williamson, Our Deepest Fear, like, who am I not to be? You know, if I was asked to speak, it's because, or you were asked to speak, you have the divine talent, skills, and abilities to be able to deliver it. They wouldn't ask you if you didn't have it. So you just need to be open and just say, like that lion, roar out. You got
Right.
it. You got
Yeah.
this. So, David, how can people stay in touch with you and get the blessing and the pleasure to see you live and see you in person? Where can they go?
The easiest thing, I've made everything really simple, is just go to Boxing Tales on Instagram. All my information's there. That will lead you to LinkedIn, or will get you to like the other social media stuff, and it'll get you to my email. So go to Boxing Tales. It's just at Boxing Tales, which is my Twitter and Instagram handle. So that's just the easiest way.
And I feel so resonated and attractive. You're the only one I connect with like on Instagram like that, but it just draws me in. It's like a magnet. So I just want to say thank you so much. I so appreciate you. You know, I've known you from the beginning of your
Right.
speaking career, and I'm so proud of you. I'm so
Thank you.
inspired by you, and I hope that everyone listening will be inspired because David, like you, had the vision, had the call. He took the initiative to roar and to answer the call and to allow his powerful message to be heard and to be a powerful vehicle for transformation and healing on this planet. I know that these hospitals and these athletes and churches are just so blessed to have you. And I
Thank you.
want to let you know that if you are wanting to have more support, that I have a Be a Paid Speaker Now Academy. Did you know that, David? I
Yeah.
created an online. I'm so excited because I took my 18 years of everything that I've learned and I put it
Wow.
into a step by step self study program. I also have a mastermind group for new speakers, walking them
Wow.
through their fears,
Yeah.
talking with the ego. We bring the ego to the mastermind group and we talk to that ego, let that ego's voice be heard so it can, allow those feelings to come up and out. And then I also do VIP coaching at the beautiful Terranea Resort in Palos Verdes. And
Wow.
also in New York, I'm going to Brooklyn for some VIP coaching. So I just am so grateful because it is my soul's contract to help experts to be abundantly paid to do what they love. My affirmation, you want to hear it, David?
Yeah.
It's I am always in the right place at the right time with the right people to be of service and be abundantly paid to do what I love.
Yeah, I like that.
Amen. Amen. Well,
Amen.
thank you so much for tuning in. We look forward to seeing you at the next episode. If you let me give a free ebook like you told me to. I have my free ebook on how to speak with confidence. You could go to deborahderas.com/speak now. And I am going to put all of David's information into the show notes so you could follow him on Instagram and make sure you follow him on all social media. You don't want to miss the opportunity to see him live. He is like one of our living sages that we are so blessed to have on this planet as such a
Thank
beneficial
you.
presence. So thank you. Really appreciate it. And remember, you are the messenger for the message, and with the power of synergy, anything is possible. Ciao. Thanks for tuning in. Join us next week for more juicy secrets to get you paid to hit that stage. If you would like to grab my free ebook on how to be a confident speaker, go to www.deborahderas.com/speak now. And remember, you are the messenger for the message. See you next week.